Welcome back to another episode of the Empower Grief Journey podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mamoni, and I'm an acceptance coach who helps people heal from grief, loss, and trauma to discover their self acceptance and step into their personal power. This podcast is your dedicated space for healing, growth, and transformation. Each episode shares insightful and inspirational stories, along with practical tools and actionable insights that can help guide you along your healing journey. Today, I have a special guest with us. Her name is Lisa. She's the mother of six living children and one child in spirit. After the death of her daughter in the womb, she was thrown into a journey of desperation and destruction and refusal to let go of her daughter and the woman she once was. Her healing journey quickly developed into a journey of resilience and soul discovery. She often uses the quote, "My daughter's death was the beginning of me living." She found ways to connect herself with the universe and, of course, with her daughter. She soon discovered that the only person holding her back was herself. Lisa was able to see a life of potential with unlimited possibilities and the chance to really inspire and empower others. Since the loss of her daughter, she's written a book documenting her journey and offers mentoring to women who've experienced loss and would like to walk the unburdened path of discovery. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Lisa. Lisa, thanks for jumping on the podcast today.
Oh, thanks, Chris. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Okay.
really enjoyed connecting with you a little bit ago in our pre-interview, and so I'd love for you to share a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about your grief journey, so listeners can get to hear what I heard in the pre-interview.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay, so I guess with my journey, I was that typical woman who had heard of child loss. I was surrounded by it in the media, on TV shows, but I never had a personal experience with it, as in nobody in my family had had a loss. I hadn't had a loss. And from that perspective, I was really naive to what it actually meant. All I had to go by was, like I say, media stories or programs that you watch on TV, which obviously would show characters in storylines, soaps, and so forth that had loss. So when it actually came to my own loss, um, I was oblivious to the roller coaster of emotions that not only do you emotionally and physically go through, but also spiritually go through. I felt like I had completely not just lost my child, lost the hopes and dreams that went with that child, lost that child's place within our family unit. Because as you rightly said, I have six other beautiful children, but also I started to lose a sense of identity to who I actually was. And I started to question everything about my existence up until that point and the existence that I potentially would go on to continue to have. Um, when I found out that Aubrey had passed, I I got myself into a really dark place. I was actually on suicide watch, and when I reflect back on that now, I can see myself from both perspectives. I see myself as Lisa, who was grieving the child that she so desperately loved and wanted, and also I see myself as Lisa, who I wouldn't like to say selfish because it's never selfish to have these feelings and we must always validate these feelings. But I was blessed with six healthy living children who needed a mum. But I was torn. I was torn between the earth plane and being present for these children and the need and desire to still want to be a mother to that child that was no longer here. So it was almost like I was searching for a relationship that I could have with my living children, but also a relationship that I could have with my child that was now in spirit. Because I think once you're a parent, once you find out you're a parent, from the moment you have that news that you are expecting another child or you're expecting your first child, and to have that taken away, it might take away the physical practicality of that you're not going to have a living child with you, but it cannot strip you of that right as a parent. That feeling just didn't leave me. I was, to me, I was Aubrey's mum, and Aubrey still needed a mum, whether she was on the earth plane or whether she was in the spiritual realms. She still needed her mum, and that's like the catalyst. as why I sort of dragged myself out from that really dark, depressive state where I was literally having to have nurses come round every day just to check, obviously, that I was sound of mind. Um, to saying to myself, right, what can I do as a mother from with the situation that I've been dealt with? As in, what can I do as a mother to Aubrey, knowing that I can't have her in the physical, but energetically, there is still a bond between me and my child. And that was the pivoting point that sort of threw me into this journey of self discovery. I was allured by the idea of mediums, by psychics, by anybody and any culture and any religion that had an aspect or a belief that you could connect with the afterlife. It kind of just threw me into a whirlwind of research. I was looking up all different cultures, all different religions, and I just wanted to know what their ethos and what their sort of mentality was on how they not only deal with grief, but also how they keep that connection. And it was amazing to see that different societies and different civilizations throughout the whole period of time, so not just even modern day, but going back to our ancestors and how they dealt with child loss and grief, like bringing that all forward into my own teachings and my own practicality, sort of like fueled me to go on my own journey of like, well, if this has been done before and this has been done now, what's to stop me from having that connection? What's to stop me from learning those skills, those attributes that they use to also have that connection with my daughter? And that's when my spiritual journey really began.
I think that's really powerful for you to share about your experience because I know a lot of women that go through a stillbirth or a miscarriage for that matter, you still have those natural biological urges and instincts in your body because our bodies are hardwired for this part of life. We're wired to bring life into the world and take care of it as it grows up and gets older. And so when we do experience that loss, our body sometimes isn't even aware of it and it doesn't know how to respond to it because it's hardwired to go one direction. But when that child is not present with us physically, our body gets confused and says, well, it's supposed to be here and we're supposed to do this over here, but we can't. And
Absolutely.
so you kind of end up, like you said, of being a sound mind in the hospital being checked on. Like our bodies are going through that change of trying to adapt in that circumstance when that child's no longer present. So I really appreciate you bringing that up.
It feels like a cruel twist of fate almost, because obviously, like you say, you've birthed your child into the world. So I had to birth Aubrey into the world, and obviously she didn't take any breath, so she was already she already died in the womb. Sorry. So I was thankful and lucky enough to spend 3 days with Aubrey in the hospital, where I could still have that connection and that bond. But when you leave the hospital and you go home with empty arms, your body doesn't recognize that. I've just birthed a baby. So women's just birthed a baby into the world. Your milk still comes through. You still have to have that bleed that obviously that you would have after you have a live birth. You still have that even if you have to birth a sleeping child, a deceased child into the world. So it's really quite cruel because you go home with these empty arms and this pain in your heart for the child that you so long, and your body is just a constant reminder that you once carried that child, but that child is no longer here. It's really hard, isn't it? Just I found it hard to separate the physical and the emotional connection to both, because they almost felt like they were mirroring each other. So my physical body was going through a pain and my emotional psyche was also in turmoil and pain, and it was just like every part of me was screaming, I should have my child now. My body's even telling me, you've just given birth, you should have a child. And it's so hard when you're faced with that and just sat there with empty arms. It really is one of the most gut wrenching feelings for any family to come home to, I think.
It really is, and that's something that I experienced too when I lost Caden. Same way you felt about Aubrey. You go home without your child, and it just feels like the whole world stopped. Like everything, this almost feels like you had a metaphorical death of your own. Like your life
Yeah.
is now completely changed. It's almost like trying to figure out, how am I going to go forward from this? What's my life going to look like? How do I heal from this? How do I still celebrate and honor my child? How do I still be a parent to them when they're not physically here? All those questions go through your head, and it's very overwhelming. It's overwhelming in a sense to try to process that and understand it and make sense of it, let alone to figure that out.
Definitely. I think it's really hard in the respect that when you go home with a live birth, you are usually welcomed by family, you are surrounded by loved ones. Everyone's like, oh, can I meet the baby? And you get, and don't get me wrong, that's beautiful because I've had that experience with my 6 living children. But it was very much different experience when I came home without Aubrey. It was almost like people were stepping on eggshells. They were too frightened to sort of bring her up, or they were too frightened to sort of like come round and have that conversation with me. And that actually upset me more. I thought, because it's I didn't want her name to stop being heard. I didn't want people to stop talking about her. I almost wanted her to live on through myself and my children and my loved ones. But it's that taboo subject, isn't it? It's just like 1 in 4 women here in the UK do suffer a miscarriage or a stillbirth or infant loss after giving birth, and yet we still are very much almost frightened to talk about it. And it's like it's almost like we're frightened to upset the mothers and the families that have had that loss. But it's almost like what they don't see from our perspective is actually we long for you to talk about our child. We long for their name to be mentioned. We long for them to still be a part of the family that they should have been born into.
I couldn't agree more with you about that. That's something that I experienced as well, is that when we have the loss like this, like Aubrey and Caden, people are scared to say their name, or they're scared to ask us how we feel, or they're scared to give us space to talk about it. And in a lot of ways, I think it's very hurtful because it's almost like it didn't happen, is the way it comes across. It's almost like we're not going to talk about this and give it space. So we'll try to just go on like nothing happened. And then us as lost parents are sat there going, no, we did have a child. This was a life. This is part of my family. This is part of who I am. And to feel like we have to hide that all the time is very, very hard.
Definitely. I mean, I still take on the persona and the ethos that Aubrey is still part of my family, with my children and my loved ones. In the sense that, yes, I'm aware that she's not with me physically, but we still celebrate her birthday. We still celebrate the day that she came into the world. So, for instance, at Christmas and Easter, all those other special holidays that I share with my other children, there is always a place for Aubrey. So, for example, I make little knitted dolls that go to Aubrey's grave, and she has one every birthday. She has one every Easter. She even has a Valentine's one and a Halloween one. They're just little knitted dolls. I might be able to show you one actually. I've got some here, and they just literally sit at the grave. This was the one that she had when she was yeah, on her day of the funeral. So this one sat there on the funeral, and I literally just take them home, wash them up, and change them over. But my children have grown to understand that every time Christmas comes or every time Easter comes, they're Aubrey's included. Her name is mentioned. She has that little gift. She has that. When we sit down at Christmas and have our dinner, and we're saying, what we're thankful for, and we're sharing memories with our loved ones, Aubrey comes into conversation. I'm so blessed in the sense that my children and my family include her, and it's absolutely beautiful because to me, it's not only keeping her memory alive, but it's also like it helps with the fact that I still have that connection with her, and my children still have that connection with her. She's still their sibling, and she's still my daughter. And even though, as painful as it is, we cannot physically have those wonderful, treasured moments. Like, I think from the moment I found out I was pregnant, I was already excited by thinking, like, school plays, her graduation, like her wedding, all those wonderful things that parents dream up of, because that's what you want for your child. You always want the best. And unfortunately, although I can't have those physical dreams now, it's almost like she's still able to live through myself and my children through the holidays and through just other aspects of our life where she comes into conversation. We really try to include her.
I think that's really beautiful because that's something that I've found in the lost community of parents, where I'm at, is that we celebrate our children that aren't even here. And we call them angel babies, is what we call them,
Oh,
because they're still a part of our story. They're a part of our life. Just because they're not here physically doesn't mean we can't celebrate them. I love that you make dolls for Aubrey. By the way, I love that,
well,
because my son in particular, on his birthday, we go crazy and make a cake. Let's like triple layer jungle cake because his animal's a lion, so we make a little jungle theme and have little lion figurines. But we throw a big birthday party for him every year, and so I think that's very important as a lost parent to celebrate their birthday and honor them just as if they were here. And I love that you include your 6 children in that process too to make sure they know Aubrey's name and they carry on the legacy of her with the family every year. I love that you guys do that.
thank you. I think for myself as well, it's almost like I am grateful to Aubrey. This is going to sound really strange, but I'm not obviously grateful that she had to not be part of our family in the physical and she had to pass on. But what she's taught me from being in the spiritual and how she's opened my eyes to the world that I felt like I was once asleep to, it's almost like her her presence, for as short as it was within my life, within my womb, she's left a parting gift, and that parting gift is knowledge and wisdom. And I honor her for that. I really do feel that she's opened my eyes. That's why I often say to people, Aubrey's passing was actually the beginning of my me living, because she's opened my eyes to a world that I was so closed off to, and I enjoy my life more now. And that's really strange to think, to say you enjoy your life more without your child. Obviously, I would love for Aubrey to be here in the physical, but it's her legacy, her gift to what she's passed down to me from not being here, and from what she showed me in my research to try and keep that connection with her, is a gift that I'll gift that I'll treasure forever, because I have learned the importance of like loving myself, to let go of those feelings of shame, of guilt, because I'm sure you must have had similar feelings, or any of your other listeners that have had a child loss, is when you leave that hospital, you leave a completely different person, because any joy that you may have had at that time then gets replaced with all the ugly, raw, negative emotions, such as anger, resentment, the shame, and the guilt. The guilt was the biggest one for me. It was almost like I felt, I'm your mum and I couldn't protect you. I failed you. I felt like a failure. I felt my body had failed Aubrey. And for that, I was trying to punish myself and self sabotage. And it's almost like with that journey of going in to try and connect with her, she's almost not only sort of lifted those feelings, but completely eradicated them, because she validated them for me. I realized the importance of having those feelings. And I think every family going through loss needs to have those feelings. You need to feel validated whilst you're in that state. But also, it's the beauty of how she was able to transform and alchemize those feelings into something so beautiful that I now enjoy my life. I look forward to life. I look forward to the small things that I once missed. Like when it first snows around Christmas time. Before, I probably was one of those mums who's like, oh my days, it's snowing. How am I going to get the children to school? How are we going to go and get the food shopping? But now I'm like, kids, it's snowing. Look at the beauty. It's snowing. And we go out and we enjoy that. And that's all since going on this journey with Aubrey, that she's helped me sort of like, it's almost like the world stopped and I got to see it with new eyes for the very first time. And that was her gift to me. She's like, yes, I'm not here, but look at the beauty of what you've got and what you can experience. And I think that is just something that I'll treasure forever, because she's taught me to love myself, to find love in others, and also to really honor this journey, because this is my life and I've got to live it to the fullest. I've got to get to the end of my journey by having the most experiences that I can have. And she's still with me with that. I 100 wholeheartedly believe that she is with me every step of the way with that, and she's like guiding me to the best and the highest opportunities that I could have within this lifetime.
Well, one of my big questions I have for you after you shared that story is, when you do leave the hospital, there's a lot of hard feelings. There's a lot of anger, guilt, shame, resentment. There's just a lot of hard feelings and emotions that happen, and it's very hard to work through those things. I think it takes many years for some people to go through that process and really find their acceptance as they go through that. It's a very, very hard way to go when you have to leave the hospital. I wanted to ask you this powerful question: what were some major turning points in your healing journey after you had to leave home, like leave the hospital without Aubrey? What were some of those major turning points in your healing journey that really allowed you to come to this fruition and mindset that you have today?
I think one of the biggest ones for me was we had a holiday booked prior to Aubrey's passing. So for the sake of my other six children, we honoured that holiday. And I think it was 4 weeks after she passed away that we were due to go. So it was only a little caravan holiday for the children near the seaside, but we honoured that for the children. And I was struggling really, really bad because it just felt like the whole world had given birth. I just felt like everywhere I turned, there was a mum with a new baby. If we went into the restaurant, there was mums with new babies. We went down to the beach, there was mums with new babies. It just kind of felt like the world was saying, "Look, Lisa, everyone but you has your baby." And I was really, really struggling with that. So I remember at the time, I said to my partner, I'm going to go back to the caravan, but you can stay at the night show with the children because they were watching the night show. And I sat there on the floor, and it was more than a cry. It was like I was sobbing. I was sobbing so, when you cry so much that your whole body shakes. I was just sobbing so uncontrollably at the thought of, like, I was like, Aubrey, I can't do this. I just don't know how I'm going to live without you. It's hurting too much. Um, Literally within, I think, about a minute of saying that, this loud thud hit the caravan window, and I was it almost like made me like turn because the velocity of how it hit there, and I was just like, oh, I was like shocked. It literally shook me out of my sobbing. And there, right on the window where the ledge where the flowers were growing, a robin, one little robin had bobbed along, and it was literally just pecking at the window. And to this day, I believe that was a sign from Aubrey that she's there. She's like, when I was saying, Aubrey, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to get through this without you. At that moment, she sent that robin, and that robin stayed for at least 10 minutes, just pecking. I was allowed to get right up. I've got a picture of it actually because it was so beautiful. But I was allowed to get right up close to it, and it just stayed in my presence in the stillness. And to this day, I do believe that that was Aubrey's first message to me, to say, "You're not doing this journey on your own, Mum. We're going to do this together." And I think that was one of the major turning points, because I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she's not with me in my arms. I've still got those empty arms, but there's something about this, and she's with me, like energetically or on soul's level. She is still within my consciousness, and she's reaching out. And there was many more beautiful experiences to follow that, but that was the first major turning point when I was just like, actually, Lisa, you might be able to do this because she's not gone.
That's incredible. And I wanted to ask you that next question since we talked in the pre interview. How did your spiritual journey evolve after losing Aubrey? What were some moments that led you down that path of opening up to your spirituality?
I think after that moment, I kind of made a promise to the universe that I was open to receive. I remember sort of saying, it's like, Aubrey, if you're there, universe, um, please send me signs. I wish to know my daughter as well. I wish to know she's still with me. I'm open to receive. It's almost like I said a chant or a prayer to say, universe, I accept all that has happened. I'm open to receive what you've got to give me now. Um, and I started to have dreams. She started to visit me in my dreams. She wouldn't visit as the image of the baby that she passed. She was always a toddler, and she'd always come through with it was my grandma that's already passed over. So there was a connection that a loved one I'd already experienced had come through with her, and she was giving me messages in my dreams. And the beauty of it, what really made me start to believe, was thinking these aren't just dreams, these are actually messages, is that the images or the messages that she was saying to me would actually then start to come true. As in, a couple of weeks later, what she said or what she showed me was happening to my family. And I was just like, wow, so that was more of a prophetic dream. That was more of like, she is giving me messages from the spirit realm. So, this is a sign again that she is still with me. And that really encouraged me want. I had like a thirst for knowledge. Then I was like, right, how do these mediums do it? What do they do? How do they connect? It was almost like she'd given me that little taste, that little spark, and it ignited a massive blaze inside of me that was like, Lisa, you are going to do this. You are going to connect to Aubrey, and there's no stopping you. And it was like, it's almost like all those ugly emotions I had were being the fuel. It's just like, I want my daughter, I need my daughter, was being the fuel that was pushing me through to be like, right, so how can I research this? What do I need to do? Which medium should I contact and ask, like, what does she do to connect? I was almost like, I was a woman like on a mission. I was just like, I was so power driven to find out the answers, and I was open and accepting to all the answers. So I wouldn't just go to one source. I'd want to go to many sources, many different mediums, many different belief systems, to gather all that information to find out which sat comfortably with my own belief system and my own moral standards, and also which one just felt like it was right for me, which one felt comfortable when I tried to connect.
That's really powerful. I've had a few of those spiritual walks myself after losing Caden, and they're like you said. I love that you brought up that image of the robin when you were crying, and I do believe that if you quiet down your mind a little bit and open yourself up to that, and just be accepting of what the universe has to show you and give you, you'll get messages like that. They will come across your path. I want to ask, did you have any if you're comfortable sharing this, any really profound messages that came through after that sighting of the robin that stood out to you?
I did, and I had it was when Aubrey came in a dream. um she told me that she told me basically that she was never meant to walk the earth. She said she hasn't ever walked the earth, and she's never meant to. She was here for my lesson, and for a long time that haunted me. It was almost like, a lesson? Did I do something wrong? Did I need to learn something? And it wasn't until I really threw myself into trying to connect with her more, and learning new ways to do that, that she actually started to reveal more of that message. And basically, her gift to me was that she wasn't meant to stay because she was my awakening. She was the reason that I would find ways to connect with the universe and to higher my own states of consciousness and my own understanding of my own existence. And she was that gift, she was that blessing. So she came here with a purpose, a very strong purpose, and that purpose was, I'm going to be the reason that my mummy wakes up to the life that she's meant to have. And to this day, I honor her and I respect her for that, because I just find that absolutely beautiful, that she was my blessing to helping me live a better life.
That's truly inspiring because that's how I felt with Caden when he came into my life, and was so our angel babies are so short lived when they come here, but they, like you said, have very big, powerful messages behind them and big lessons they teach us. And
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
the gift that Aubrey gave you, by the way, of starting to live your life more fully. I think that when we go through losing a child in this format, it really shakes the foundation of ourselves, our truth, our belief systems, our convictions of life, what we value, what we cherish, what makes us happy, what doesn't. And we go through this big transformation of rediscovering ourselves and figuring out what our purpose really is. Um, I wanted to ask you what part of this journey did you start writing your book?
I think it was, so Aubrey passed away in the July, and it was actually again on that holiday that I was at soft play. So I was sat there watching my children have soft play, and clear as day, I just remember sitting up, turning to my partner and saying, "I need to write a book. I need to write a book about Aubrey." And he was like, "Oh, when you look at someone like, where did that come from?" Because we'd had a normal conversation like you do between partners, talking about the kids, talking about the holiday. But I had a really strong urge. It just almost filled my whole body with the sense and empowerment of like, Lisa, you need to write a book. You need to let people know about Aubrey. And it was just like I had to blurt it out because I was just like, it was like it wouldn't stay in anyway. It was almost like I felt like she was using me to get that out there so that in my it would come from my subconscious into my conscious mind to be like, you need to write a book now. So when I came back off the holiday, I sat on it for about a month. I was like, is this really what Aubrey wants me to do? But she kept coming back in dreams. She's like, yeah, I want you to write a book, Mum. I want you to write a book. I want you to help other people. I want you to write a book about your experience and share with them that as something so tragic and so heart-wrenching, something beautiful can be born. Like a transformation can take place from this horrible catastrophe that is the loss of our beautiful children, but something beautiful can be born from that. And she kept coming back with that message. So it was October that year that I literally dedicated every Sunday evening. So I'd got all the children. We did the usual football practice in the morning because my boys go to football practice. We'd have our Sunday dinner as a family, and then it'd be the movie night, and then it'd be bath and bed, ready for school the next day. And when my children were in bed, I would literally sit down every Sunday night for a whole year. It took me just writing this book. And there's bits in my book that I read now, and I'm like, gosh, did I write that? Because I generally believe that Aubrey was using me as a vessel to write these messages. There's some bits in there that are so profound. I'm like, wow, where did that knowledge come from? I didn't realize I even knew what that was or understood that. But it was almost like she has guided me the whole time to write this book because there's a message within that book that needs to reach other families that have experienced this loss so that they can start their own healing journey. They can start empowering themselves. They can start the life that they are meant to have.
So inside your book, you wrote these lessons that Aubrey shared with you, or is it more of a memoir book about your journey with Aubrey?
It's so the book is split into three. So it's each chapter's got three different sections, and it will be an account of what happened. So my story from finding out that I'd lost Aubrey to delivering her, and then to like the days after when I had to come home without her. And then there's a reflection on that piece, which is a reflection based on how I am now. So more of like looking back at how I was and comparing it to what I know now and the knowledge that I bring forward now. And then there's a practical activity that starts off at a really easy level at the beginning of the book, and the activities sort of get harder as the book progresses and you go further into my story, to the point where at the end I literally walk you through a guided meditation so that you also can connect with your child in spirit. And it's full of rituals. It's full of ceremonies that you can do to help connect. It talks about the different methods you can use to connect, because you don't have to just connect through mediumship or through meditation. I tried dance, connecting through dance like the shamans do. I tried drumming like the shamans do. I tried connecting through art. That was amazing. Some of the pieces of work that came through that I generally believe were images that Aubrey was showing me. And I'm not normally generally an artist, but I absolutely loved having a blank canvas and just letting her use my body to express the images and the words that she wanted to share with me. And they were such empowering words. Like the images were usually like just beautiful flowers opening up and blooming, but the words were so strong. They were just really words of encouragement and of peace and calm, and bringing that tranquility to, I'd sit back and be like, oh, I'd have to take a deep breath because I'd be like, I feel really at peace and really connected to my own body right now and really connected to the universe. So yeah, there's different methods that I talk about in the book, because what I say in the book is, it's like it's like one shoe doesn't fit all, one size doesn't fit all. What I find helps for me may not be the right method, because my favorite method to connect with Aubrey is meditation. I find that when I connect into a meditation, I can go into a deep meditation. I get visuals, I get audios, I get just clear sense of knowing that whatever message she's bringing forward is meant for me. And usually I'm quite gifted in the sense that whatever she's bringing forward usually then does come true. So it's more of a prophetic message that she brings. So she's almost guiding me through my life step by step. That's how I feel. I feel that she's still with me, guiding me through my life step by step because of these images and audios that she brings forward in meditation for me. But if meditation doesn't work for somebody else, they might prefer to do it through dance. You could be dancing and you could get a really clear vision in your mind, or some people get really good sound, so they might hear words, or even full-on sentences. Some people even hear conversations, a full-on conversation from their spirit child as they're dancing. Because I've met many women that have tried different techniques and different theories, and their stories are so inspiring and so empowering. It's just like, there was this one woman, bless her, and her favorite method to connect to her child in spirit is to connect through dance. And while she's dancing and her whole body is like loosening up and sort of like, it's almost that consent to the universe. It's like, right, universe, we're ready to receive. She can literally have a conversation with her child in spirit. It doesn't happen for me that way, so that's not necessarily the right way for me, but I respect the way she does it. I just think, wow, that's astonishing that you can have a conversation with your child in spirit just through the medium of dance.
That's really powerful, and I think that's a true reflection that all of us on our lost journeys have a different modality in which we can connect with our loved ones who've crossed over. Some of us will see signs through birds or feathers, things like that, symbolism, even angel numbers for that matter. Other people get more deeply profound meanings through meditation or dance, like you just brought up. And I think it's really important, and I appreciate how you shared that right now, that everybody understands that there's a path for them. There's a way for them to connect, and it's really up to them to discover that for themselves, because what may work for Lisa or might work for myself is not necessarily going to work for somebody else. And so leaving yourself open, as Lisa shared today, leave yourself open to these signs, leave yourself open to these things to come towards you, because ultimately they will be able to share those gifts with you through that modality that you discover. Um, Lisa, I want to ask you as well on the other side of this story, because I know it doesn't get talked about as much in the lost community, but what was this like going through losing Aubrey with your partner? How did that affect that relationship and, that grief that you guys both went through? Because I know in a couple, somebody will grieve one way where somebody else will grieve another way. What was that like for you guys on your healing journey?
That was very much how you just said, with respect to myself and my partner. Was It was almost like he felt he had to put a brave face on, because he was the father figure within the family unit. It was almost like he felt like he had to be the strong one. And for a long time I resented him for that. I was like, what? Obviously he was feeling the pain, of course he was, but when I was so distraught and really in that dark ugly place, I couldn't see that from him, because all I could see was my partner, and he was carrying on with work, he was carrying on with the children, he was carrying on with the weekly phone calls that he would make to his mum, who doesn't live near us. It was like, but Aubrey didn't get mentioned in those phone calls. And I think now on reflection, it's because he was trying to be respectful to me. It was almost like he was frightened to bring her up in case it brought me into a lower state. And we have since had some really deep conversations, and he has since cried. But at the time, he said, he felt like he had no choice but to be the strong one. He saw how much it ripped my soul from my body, how much I was crumbling away from the woman I was. And he felt like the only choice he had was to step up and be a stronger man. And that, to this day now, that really, I find that a hole in my heart, because I'm like, I didn't see it at the time. I didn't see the pain he was going through. I just saw a really strong man that was able to carry on with his life and carry on doing the things that he needed to do to keep the family and his work life going. But when actually he was falling apart inside, it was it was breaking away at him just as much as it was me. But he felt the sense to be strong because he wanted to protect me. So he was doing it to protect his children, to protect me, and basically to protect the external family as well, to protect his mum, the grandmother of Aubrey. It was almost like it was too much. I think I wish he'd come to me sooner and said this is how he was feeling, because he really did take on too much for one man to take on his own.
Well, I think that's what's hard for us as men is we're fixers. We like to be able to fix things. And I think when you go through a child loss like this, you can't fix it. You just can't. There's no way to bring Aubrey back. There's no way to you can't have another child to replace them. You can't you can't tell your wife it's going to be okay. You can't tell her how to move through that, how to navigate it. There's no way for us to fix it at all. And so I think a lot of men get stuck in that trap of I can't fix this. What do I do now? And so it becomes and another half of that too on the men's side of things is that we weren't taught how to have emotions. We weren't taught how to express ourselves. And so a lot of times we internalize that and we keep it trapped inside of us to make sure nobody sees it. Because society does tell us that if men cry, it's weak, or if we're vulnerable, it's weak. And it's the actual opposite of that. I think that men that do open up with emotion and lead with vulnerability, I see it as a strength. I see it as something that makes you stronger and it makes you more more authentic in how you're going through this experience.
Definitely agree. I think since speaking to my partner and to my children as well, also because at the time I wasn't able to see it from their perspective either. So now I've stepped back and I'm on my healing journey, because I'd never say I'm fully healed, because I don't believe you ever really do. But now I can say I'm on my healing journey. Um, I'm able to talk to my children about how they felt as well. And I found that from talking to my partner, from talking to my children, it's actually brought us stronger together as a family. We're actually able to share now, um, so my children can come to me. I mean, I would like to have thought they could come to me before with any sort of feelings of any emotions they were feeling, if they had shame or guilt around anything, absolutely anything. But it's almost again that blessing in disguise with Aubrey's small but short existence here within our family unit, is that she's actually made it so that they not only shared with me how they were feeling about not having their sibling, having lost their sibling, but now anytime there's a problem, we come together as family. It's not just me and my oldest child or me and my youngest child. It's almost like it becomes the family's discussion, the family's problem, and we solve it together. And again, I do believe that that was another of her gifts. She had that short existence with us, but she's taught us that actually opening up and sharing those emotions as a family helps us to actually move through it a lot quicker, but also you move through it more healed, because you're having contribution and different sides of the story from different people within that family, that you can you can almost build unity together, that helps sort of like push through the problem. Yeah, sort of like you flow more through the problem instead of it being like staggered progression of like, for example, say my child was having problems with his teacher at school, and he didn't want to say to his teacher, and he was trying to tell me. Instead of just coming to me and telling me, or just going to his dad, or even telling a sibling, we now get together as a family. We share that experience, and I am able to say what I think would be a good route forward. My partner will say what and so do all his other siblings, and we use that to able to come to pull different aspects of each of our personalities and each of our attributes to find a way forward that's comfortable for that child, that's then got to deal with this problem, deal with the fact that they're having trouble with their teacher. How do they address that with their teacher? And we find that it works so much better that when we work together like that.
Well, I think that's a really healthy dynamic that you've created is creating that space for your family, everybody to come together and share their emotions, express themselves, and be vulnerable and be open. Because I think that one of the biggest parts that grief is misunderstood by is that every one of us has a different experience and a different feeling and a different emotion and a different meaning and purpose to what these losses are in our life. And I think it's a disservice not to hold space for everybody to share their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs and vulnerability. We miss out, by the way, when we don't hold space for that because we're now stuck with our one mindset. And that's only going to take us so far on our journey. It's not going to really give us more after a certain point. So I think it's a very much a better way of healing when you don't have to do it alone and you don't have to hide those parts of yourself. You've got support with your family, support from your partner, support from people around you to share your story, share your feelings. They're going to share theirs too. And maybe there's something to be taught or a lesson to learn or something you needed to hear in those moments. And I think that's how you can move through grief in a very powerful way.
Absolutely, definitely. From what you that statement you just said about how there's many things you can learn from sharing those experiences is like I found that from talking to my partner and having his perspective on the birth of Aubrey and how how he saw it and the events how the events played out for him, and then my children when they came to visit Aubrey and so forth, I actually realized that I had missed so many different memories that I can now treasure because I was only focused like on my side of things. So I didn't get to see certain aspects of the I mean, there are bits obviously throughout the day that we look back now, and at the time we were like, oh, I just want to forget that bit. I just want to forget that bit. That was too upsetting. But now I realize that I don't want to forget that bit. I don't want to forget any part from the moment they told me that she no longer had a heartbeat to the moment I held her in my arms without that heartbeat. I don't want to forget any of those bits because yes, they were really upsetting, and yes, I literally felt like you said earlier that I died that day with. There's an aspect of me that died and was reborn with Aubrey, but it's almost like from those key moments from the whole delivery there was lessons and there was blessings within that. I now feel like stronger to face more. It's almost like I've always been afraid of change, always. And I've always been dreading of having to sort of deliver bad news. So, for example, I was the one that had to go home and tell my children that there was no heartbeat. My partner didn't do that. I did that. And at the time, I did actually have to, I dreaded it. I didn't want to cause their little hearts to break any more than what mine was because they could see that I was distressed. But I realize now that, again, like I keep saying, that was another lesson from Aubrey is that by doing that, I've actually become stronger. And I now, like, if I have to give my children upsetting news now, I find that I take that moment. I literally go right back to when I had to do it with that. And I say to myself, but Lisa, you've already given your children the most upsetting news they could possibly have. Their sibling has passed away. You can do this. And it's like, again, she's with me saying, you can do this, mum. You can do it. And I feel more confident in myself to have to say, like, so if I need to say no to people, I'm more confident about that. If I have to tell people upsetting news, um, within like the work environment or the school environment, I'm more confident in myself to do that now. And I generally believe that there was like moments, the whole experience of having to birth Aubrey into the world and those weeks after when I was really, really struggling, there's just aspects from that whole story that I now bring forward into my everyday life, and it's made me stronger because of it.
I couldn't agree more with you about that. I think going through that experience, and I want to highlight something you said that's really important, not forgetting all the moments that happen, even the worst ones that caused the most pain to the ones that brought you the joy. All of those memories, no matter what they were, are all important to your healing journey and your journey to go forward in life. And I love that you said how I've already given them the worst news that Aubrey is not going to be here physically. I've already given them the worst news that could ever happen. So going forward, I have the strength to tell them that news, no matter how bad or good it is. I can confidently tell them that without having to have fear or worry behind that. I think that's a powerful, powerful lesson and a powerful gift Aubrey gave you.
I feel like I've changed. I feel that I've changed completely from the woman I once was. Um, in aspect of, I'm still mother to my other 6 children. That side of me is still very much, I'm still the same mum. I still enjoy doing all the fun, the cooking, the gardening, the crafts, arts and crafts, and all the school plays and stuff. I still love and adore all that side of it. But it's almost like I kind of neglected Lisa the person, like Lisa the adult, Lisa the woman that enjoyed, and that was it. It's like, what did I enjoy? It's almost like up until that point, I had I was Lisa the mum, and I didn't really have another label. And it's almost like Aubrey's given me that gift. She's like, but you're more than just Lisa the mum. You are. And then through these lessons that she has literally given me from the experience of having her in my life, I've I feel stronger. I feel more empowered. I feel inspired to go on and help other women and other families find themselves, identify themselves again. And now I know that I'm Lisa the partner, I'm Lisa the mum, I'm Lisa the friend, I'm Lisa the sister, and I'm Lisa the woman that is very much power driven to get that message of Aubrey existed. Aubrey very much still exists to me and my family. And she's got so many messages that she wants to share with the world to be able to help so many other people on this journey of grief.
You know, I love what you just shared because that's the biggest thing I tell people when I coach is that grief is a personal transformation journey from who you were to who you're becoming. And I love that Aubrey gave you that gift to say, Lisa, you are so much more than this. There's a whole part of you that's not even had room or space or time to even exist. And I'm going to give you that gift to be that person. I love that she gave you that. So. So, Lisa, I wanted to ask you as we wrap up the podcast, I have a few questions I want to ask you. My first one is if you run across somebody who's going through grief or maybe feels stuck in grief, what's one thing you would share with them to help them navigate that journey just a little bit easier?
I think the first thing I'd like to say would be that I think that, first of all, I hear you, I see you, and I validate you. Because so many times we are almost told not, we're not told not to talk about it, we're not told to bring it up, but it's that hush hush, isn't it? It's that very taboo. It's like tiptoe around you. People do that a lot, and it gives you the impression that you're not, even though they don't physically say, oh, don't talk about your loss, I don't want to hear it, I can't cope with that. It's the impression we get. Whereas I want to say to anybody that's listening is, no, I validate you wherever you are on your healing journey. The most ugliest, rawest feelings that we can experience as a human being when we go into the depths of that our psyche, it's that is where you need to be right now. There is no rush. There is no, you can't you can't rush your journey. You can't skip chapters of your journey. You have to be where you are at that time, and you have to validate that. And anybody that's part of your life has to sit with you at that stage, because there's no pushing it forward. We all go through these stages, and what most people will find on their journey of grief, I'm not sure if you felt this too, but on my journey of grief, there's moments when I felt, do you know what, I'm doing really okay here, today's a good day. But then something comes along and triggers you, and you go right back down that spiral, and you're sat there with, oh, I actually feel like, I wish my body hadn't failed her. I actually feel like, oh, those feelings of guilt are creeping back in. And that's okay, because you need to go back and revisit it. It's not shameful to go back and revisit those ugly feelings, because you know that you've got through it before, you've felt it before, you've managed to work your way up on that journey to a place where you felt a little bit more content, a little bit more calmer, a little bit more, I know what I'm doing in the world right now. And it's absolutely fine to slip back down, because as long as you don't stay there, as long as you just say, okay, I'm going to hold myself where I am right now, because I know that I can get back to where I was, then that's absolutely fine. And don't let anybody tell you that, oh, it's been 6 weeks now, you should be emptying the nursery of all the bits you bought. It's been a year now, you should be sort of like, not talking about her as much, we don't really want, don't let anybody tell you that, because you need to do what is right for you. And I know many women that I've spoke to on their journey who are 5 years into this journey of loss, and they still have their nursery all set up. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that is their space, safe, special place where they can go to feel connected with their child, then that is a blessing to them. You know, use what you can that you find comfort from, that you find that helps you connect to your child in the most profound way, and hold on to that, because that is the universe saying, this is your gateway, this is your connection through. So if you find that sitting in a nursery that you don't actually have a physical child to put you in makes you feel the closest to your child, then that in itself is still a gift and you should utilize that.
That's beautifully said, Lisa. I couldn't agree more with you about that. And I love that your advice is to make people feel seen and heard and validated. I think that is the best advice you could give anybody going through grief. So I appreciate you sharing that today. My other two questions I have for you is, if people listen to this podcast and they want to connect with you, where can they find you? And on top of that, where can we find this book that you wrote?
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Okay, so I have a website which has copies of my book that you can purchase. You can also connect through to me for mentoring. My mentoring is all free, but you can do what we call a donation option. So you can donate to my page, and 10% of any book sales or any donations that are given to the page for my mentoring go to the local baby loss charity here in the UK, which is called Time Together Tomorrow, which is the baby loss charity that helped me. It's all on my webpage, which is at lisawinter.co.uk.
I love that. And for listeners today, I just want you guys to know you'll find Lisa's website link in the show notes when you guys get done listening to the podcast. Lisa, I just want to say thank you so much for being a guest today on the Empower Grief Journey podcast. It's been a true honor to get to meet you and hear your story and also hear what Aubrey has taught you. I think that Aubrey came into this world with a much bigger purpose than you saw initially, and to see all the beautiful gifts that she is giving you, and if you agree with me on this one, continues to share with you and guide you. It's been a real honor. So I just want to say a big thank you to you and Aubrey today.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining Lisa and I today on this episode of the Empower Grief Journey podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with somebody you know who could benefit from Lisa's story. For more episodes that are designed to empower you and support you, visit empowergriefjourney.com and subscribe to this podcast. You can find us on Apple and Spotify. The Empower Grief Journey is all about honoring your journey, embracing your emotions, and finding strength in your own time. I want you to know you're never alone on this journey, and together we can navigate grief with courage and compassion. Until next time, be kind to yourself and take your grief journey one step at a time.